Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Brave Briefings, where brave men and women come forward and give us tips and ideas and suggestions, or even share their stories on how we can be brave to live a safer and more peaceful life. A place where there is no harassment, devoid of sexual and gender based violence and domestic violence. So we want everybody to be brave. Are you brave? Hi, I am Lois, your friend for forgiveness from Walking Without Skin. And today I have another brave woman with me. Hi, Maya.
Hello there, Lois.
I'm so pleased you've joined us today. Would you like to share with our viewers a little bit about who you are?
You know, whenever somebody says that to me, as with many people, my mind goes a little blank. And it's not that I don't know who I am, it's that I do multiple things. So I have a practice, a spiritual psychology practice that I've been running since my early 20s. So that's a long time now, 30 plus years, where I help people to discover the best in themselves and to, if you like, work through the traumas and the disturbances in their lives that have held them back. I think that that's probably one of the simplest ways of describing. I've been working in the natural health and herbal side of business for and healing for many, many years also. And I have a company that helps women to recover from cystitis and urinary tract infections, and therefore to avoid and recover from antibiotic overuse. And in addition to that, I'm a published author and a digital publisher. So that's quite a lot, really.
It is quite a lot, and well done for all the effort you're putting in there to help women in various spheres and phases of their life.
Mm.
So thank you. So tell us, how can we help other people become brave? What can we do to help people become brave?
I think it's very interesting, isn't it? Because we have this truth, right? And also this belief that we are victims. And I think that very often we don't understand what it is as women to be truly self-empowered in that state of femininity and divine femininity, because it's not something that we're taught very often, is it? As children, we're not taught how to stand in our feminine power, whatever that means to somebody. Okay. And I think that we are so conditioned to accept what happens in the world now, and it is a world, whether we like it or not, where most women across the planet, even if we think we're independent, we are subjected to a culture of control. Okay, and that in itself is the challenge, because so what happens, I believe, when we're subjected to a culture of control, is that we either rebel against it, and in fact I think that's what, or we comply with it, right? So we have to take a completely fresh mindset and understand what we are as women and who we are as women and what it means to be a woman, and what it is to be a woman in our feminine energy, before we can even perhaps fully address the cultural issues that women have been subjected to for centuries. What do you think?
I think that's a very interesting take. So, what can we do as women to be able to get that control?
Mm. Well, one of the first things that I think we need to do, and I'm just thinking about my journey in the past 2.5 years, because I did something that a lot of women think is very brave. They tell me all the time. I actually walked out on an 18-year relationship with a suitcase, and just that's it, and rebuilt my life in the last 2.5 years. And although I had good foundations for my businesses and various other things, I really did literally walk out, move back down to England, start over, and have become utterly, completely independent of men. as support systems in this in a domestic sense. And I've had to learn, as many women do have to learn, how to become not selfish and not rejecting men, but self-centered in a positive way. What is it that we have been taught to believe about our role in society that actually isn't serving us, looking towards the change that we want? And for me, it has been creating a completely separate financial life. My partner and I are actually reconciled, but I have my own home down in London, as well as my home here in Scotland. And I have had to learn to ask for what I require of myself and of the men in my life, in my businesses, and get absolute clarity on what is it that I require of myself, what's the context of every conversation I'm having, and how to, which is a bit of work, let me tell you, in the beginning, because you have to completely change your thinking, and to bring clarity to my own internal and external conversations that allow men to be supportive in an appropriate way, right, for an independent woman. And I'm actually, it's interesting for me to be answering your questions, because I haven't actually unpacked this until this minute. Although I think I've been teaching it for about 6 months to various female clients without realizing what I've been doing. But yeah, so am I making sense?
Making total sense. I really enjoy what you're saying, because before we can change other people, we need to look inside ourselves. We need to take control and to become empowered, and have clarity of purpose of what we want before we can. And then what I loved what you said, and then communicate, have that conversation with your partner or with the others around you, so that they understand where you are at, and that they
Mm.
meet you there. So that's very, very important. It's about the communication, the conversation, but only when you know what you really want and that you've got
And
your.
I think that there's another layer here, as which is just coming through to me as I'm listening to you help me unpack this. There's also this, from an energy medicine perspective, you know, we have, my belief is, and I know it's a belief that many people have, that we have energy centers in the body. And you know, you get the yin yang image, right? So in all the male side, or the male energy or the yang energy, there's a little bit of the yin energy and vice versa. And what I've discovered over the years is very often in each chakra center, there's an imbalance in the yin and the yang, right? There's an imbalance. So if, for instance, let's say in your base chakra, which is all about being safe on the planet, you have an over-dominant yang energy, male energy, that overrides the female intuition and the female, that wonderful, creative, divine sense of self, right? You're always going to feel that female side is always going to feel diminished. Okay, so one of the things that I've done for years, without thinking about it in this context, for about the last 30 years, is I take people through a process where we heal the male and female imbalances in each energy center, and then align each one all the way to the top, all the way to the crown, so that women, and I suppose I've done it with men, but actually I've done it mostly with women. So what happens then is that there's a balance in each energy center. So the female side can rise up, and we get a better sense of that balance in ourselves. And then you align all of them, so you're going in one direction. And I think that if we look at it from a slightly different perspective, is where we consider ourselves to be wounded as women, is where we have to desist from that belief that we are wounded, and look at what brings us strength, what would reroute us into that female, divine, intuitive, gentle energy. Because gentleness can be strong, right?
I love that. I do believe, though, we should be doing this more with men. I think men need it.
I don't disagree. However, my understanding is that many broken men come from broken women. And I think it's very easy to assume that men, because they're physically stronger, and we live in a male-dominated society, and women have to fight so hard so often to be heard, right? Even amongst themselves. Even when you have a group of women, if you actually look at the dynamic, very often it's the women that behave like men that get heard over the women that are behaving in a centered space in their divine way, right? It's a different, you know, so with the men, what I find is that men need to heal, but it's not aggression and violence that needs to heal in men. It's their relationship with their feminine and their mothers that needs to heal, right? And when that happens, when you have a man who genuinely loves and appreciates women, there is no abuse. There is no domination. There is no expectation of man first. It's actually often the other way around, if you've ever witnessed it, right? When a man really understands the role of women in the world, they are wonderfully supportive. It's like the vase or that allows the tree to blossom, if you like. It's amazing how it happens. So I think, again, the very fact that we're even thinking about men and women is almost part of the problem. It's almost part of the problem, because it's actually the cultural expectations of both men and women, and the diminishment of empowerment in both sexes. And let's actually be even more bizarre, right? For me, let's just say of all the sexes, because of course we aren't just men and we aren't just women, and there are huge conversations around the LGBT community at the moment, and who and what is it to be human? Why aren't we asking that question? What is it to be human, and what is it to be kind? And how do we eliminate cruelty and the requirement for dominance in a world where balance is more required? Hadn't thought of that before either.
Wow. Well, there's so much that you've brought up there. I think we're going to have another interview to talk about more of that, because there is a lot of information in there. But I think the two takeaways for today, I like what you said, broken men come from broken women. So we need to fix the woman, so that there are no broken men. And then those broken men, they need to fix themselves with our support.
I think, again, do you know something? I think men are in as much of an identity crisis as women over the past 30 years, and I don't think that men know their role anymore, because the roles are breaking down. And I don't think that women know what it is to be, as I said, strong and independent and powerful without being like men have been, right? So it comes down to, doesn't it, everybody, men healing men, women healing women, and then coming together and understanding that you can be in a state of peace and balance, and at the same time motivated and expanding, right? We seem to have this idea, don't we, that we have to struggle to achieve. And what if that's not the case? What if so many of the premises that we live under are just incorrect in the first place?
Sure, we got a lot of work to do.
We do.
Maya, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing those pearls of wisdom. We really need to take that a lot further. I'm really so pleased that you joined us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I really do, because you know what it's like, Lois. Very often we don't know what we think until someone asks us a question.
Yes. And I'll put your information below the video so that people can contact you.
Thank you.
Everyone, I invite you all to join us, to be bold, to be brave, and to fly free.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much, and do join us again tomorrow for another edition of Brave Briefings. Thank you, and go well.